Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about if you can use your competing offer to raise your salary. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, can I use a competing offer from another company as leverage to raise my salary at my current position? Well, yes, I suppose you could do that. I would be a little bit careful though with this. Let me explain that just a little bit, because the thing is that this question was it was posted on a video where I was discussing usually how you can go about having a salary negotiation with your manager. And in that video I state a few ways that you usually go about trying to make the argument that you should have a higher salary. And this person asked, why aren't you talking about getting a competing offer? Now, the reason why I left that out is because having a competing offer is not something that necessarily is going to work 100% of the time. It is definitely something that could work, but you need to be a little bit careful about this. So what I told this person was that if you think about the way that you communicate with your manager and what it says about you and the relationship to your manager, you will start to hopefully see my point. Imagine that you go to your manager and your negotiation is based on the fact that you are helping this company and therefore you should be compensated for that. You're a benefit, you're an asset, you're someone who wants to stick around. That is a very different thing from saying that, you know what, there's someone out there who values me more, and if you don't pay me what I ask, I might actually leave. That is actually much closer to blackmail or a threat. Now, it's in no way, I'm not in any way saying that you shouldn't do this if you want to. It's just that this can turn out very poorly for you. And that's why I didn't touch on it, because if you go and you say that, well, I might actually leave if you don't raise my salary, then one of two things can happen. Either you get a raised salary, or they're going to say no. And that leaves you in a position which is kind of hard, because if they say no, and this is why I think that this is a bit of a gamble, if they say no, you are practically forced to leave the company, or you're going to find yourself in a much weaker negotiation position the next time you go and talk to your manager, most likely. Because if you stick around after the fact that they know that you've already considered moving to some other company enough to bring it up, because that's a bigger commitment, guys. Just leaving and moving on to some other place is a very different thing from going out of your way and actually telling your manager, hey, you know what, you need to pay me more because otherwise I'm gonna leave. That is a standoff position that is possible to go in your benefit, but it's also possible that it's not going to go to your benefit. And the thing is, this is the key thing. This will only work so many times. And the thing that I actually told this person that I think that you are underestimating is just how often a skilled software developer will be able to get a competing offer. This is not, guys, this is not something that happens once every 5 years. If you go out of your way and you actually go through the processes of like talking to companies and going through interviews and all of this stuff, odds are that you can negotiate a better salary depending on how good you get at it, maybe even once a year. Like fairly frequently. We're talking very, very frequently here. And as you can imagine, if your boss, if you go once and say, hey, I have a competing offer, raise my salary, that's one thing. If you do it continuously, how many times do you feel that your boss is going to feel all that good about continuing this process? Because at the end of the day, it really comes down to how afraid are they to lose you. That's in essence the gamble you're making, because the only way that this is gonna work is if they're literally so scared to lose you that they will go along with this. Now, in my part of the world, in Europe, this does happen, but it's far from the norm. In the US, it might be different, and people might be, oh yeah, it doesn't matter that it seems that the main factor for you being here is that I pay you a certain amount and nothing else factors in. You should know though that IT, as opposed to a lot of other companies, I would completely understand if this sort of strategy worked in an industry where the emphasis on personal fit, office culture, and all of this sort of stuff was less hyped or less in focus as opposed to how in focus it is in IT. If I mean nobody's going to play the "we are a family" card with you if you're working in something where you're basically just like you're practically just a body that they can switch out like immediately. It's just not lucrative for the industry. However, in software engineering, there's a lot more emphasis on commitment and a symbiotic relationship between the employer and the software engineer. In general terms, I'm not saying that that's always the case. There are absolutely situations where this is not true. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you do decide that you got a competing offer or like you want to play that card, you should know that this is a gamble, and it's a gamble regardless of where you are. Because if you go to your boss and say, hey, I have another offer and I'm very seriously going to think about taking that, well, then you better have an offer because you haven't. It's going to be really hard for you to figure out if they're going to say, well, oh, I can't really lose you, I need to raise your salary, or if they're going to go, oh, then please go ahead, go and take it. Because the thing is, if you're bluffing or you're not really committed to moving if it doesn't go in your favor, you might actually get fired if you then go and say, oh no, actually I didn't want to take it, and then your boss goes, oh, but I have already started looking at for somebody else because I felt that your commitment to my company wasn't high enough, so now you're fired. So it is a gamble. Play this card if either you're extremely sure that you're going to get a raise, or if you do actually have something that is very lucrative to go over to, then there's no then you're in a pretty good position. But otherwise, I really suggest that you always go with the value increasing perspective that I used to be this good and today I'm this good, and I'm actually bringing more value to the company. So I want to stay at this company. Therefore, I think that we should have a talk about me raising my salary. Have a great day.